Our third panelist, Monica Nilsson, will provide the perspective of poverty-stricken individuals and the nonprofit agencies that serve them in the human.
Good afternoon. I'm Monica Nilsson. First, I'd like to acknowledge and thank St. Stephen's Human Rights Program, the staff and GAMC consumers who created the videos. Most people don't know anyone on GAMC. Most Minnesotans don't know anyone on GAMC. I did not create those videos. It's a couple of AmeriCorps Vistas, a bunch of homeless folks, and a couple St. Stephen's staff who created those videos. Today, I've titled my remarks, Fighting Raccoons While Sedated. Monday, November 30th, 9 a.m. My day starts like 2 Mondays previous. A man walks into the office and wants to kill himself. Forget the emails and meetings and reports that are due. Kevin was awakened by the garbage bin he was in the night before being picked up by a garbage truck that was collecting the cardboard recycling that he laid on that night. He knows he can't be groggy and defend himself in the absence of us protecting him, so forget the medicine for his mental health. 4 hours later, Kevin is picked up to be put in a crisis home for a few days to prevent him from dying. The cost of his care will equal 6 months of rent in a studio apartment. He should be on the street by tomorrow, as a matter of fact. If you've ever known a skilled carpenter, you know they don't sell their tools. Well, Robert sold his when he lost his housing, even though he hopes to return to work. The luxury home developer who brought him into the office hopes to have him back. But Robert's untreated psychosis has brought him to sleeping around the lakes. He agreed to care, and within 3 days, I had an appointment with a physician. He had GAMC and is now receiving mental health care. I thanked God it wasn't March 2nd, 2010. Jim called to ask, my blood pressure is 230 over 180. Is that bad? A client of Minnesota Care, Jim had not paid his premium of $45 last month. He had had some work in the past year, but is now receiving general assistance of $203 a month. With a premium over 20% of his income, more urgent needs took precedent. So now, the next month, he has no insurance. He asked if I could buy his 2 blood pressure meds for $95. My answer, no. He returned to the garage in which he sleeps. While I discourage those who are supporting panhandlers, in Mary's case, she really is signing in part for her copays. After she lost her job, she started donating plasma. But after her 280th visit, they said her blood levels were too unstable, so she started panhandling off 94 in April. I won't talk much about what this stress does to direct service homeless advocates, police officers, or healthcare providers. Our trauma is only secondary. I will say that I am incredulous that we now live in a community where a program at St. Stephen's, our street outreach program, is negotiating with the Chinese for the best price on sleeping bags and tents as an alternative to emergency housing in Minnesota in December. I hate to point out the pink raccoon in the room, but just to state what's obvious to homeless advocates, housing is healthcare. Housing is healthcare. I am not a think tank person or an elected official, and I understand that GAMC is a loss leader for managed care. I am more of a plain talker, as I think are a lot of Minnesotans. So the question I have for today is, how are the people who are homeless or have been having their care managed? Services like care coordination, transportation to medical appointments, and personal care attendant services don't happen if you are in the woods, in a garage, or on the wrong part of Lake Harriet. I will ask the same question that Governor Pawlenty asked 3 years ago. Are managed care providers underwriters of risk or true partners in health improvement? We have one staff for every 80 people in some adult shelters, plus those outside to attend to. My care coordination for the folks I work with is my BlackBerry. Medical transportation is my Jetta, and PCA services take the form of Henry, the homeless wheelchair-bound senior, tucking a can of air freshener between his legs because, as he states with humility, I don't want to leave my odor behind when I leave you. Maybe it's not that we need more money, but we need to spend what we have differently, in this case with housing, healthcare, and support services linked. You don't provide one without the others. One solution I offer is that for $30,000 in one-time startup money, we can house and continue to support 15 long-term homeless households. St. Stephen's has moved hundreds of people out of homelessness in the past few years with an average length of homelessness of 12 years. 12 years homeless. Alternately, tonight, one of those I work with on GAMC may take a poor man's vacation and get drunk. We will house him for $192 at Detox. Another will steal some food. A booking and night in jail, $363. One is most likely in the emergency department at your place, complaining of terrible back pain or truthfully saying they want to die. They will spend some time at HCMC or another hospital and be out this weekend after spending perhaps $3,000, 6 months' rent in a studio apartment. But don't worry, she'll be back again to HCMC after she's been back to St. Stephen's. A month at shelter, $900. An hour with a pair of beat cops picking someone out of traffic, $120. There will be days in the future, I imagine, that to save time, it would be easier for me to drive people to suburban hospitals. I don't have to wait for hours at HCMC. It's quicker to me to go to St. Francis in Scott County or Fairview Ridges in Dakota County. I promise you on everything that is valuable to me that if we provide affordable housing for people, they will be healthier and cheaper. We now have 700 people in 2 shelters downtown that are intended to hold 400 people, with illnesses that are the costliest to GAMC: psychoses, depressive neuroses, chemical dependency. I don't believe it's that Minnesotans want people to suffer. I believe it's that they don't know how bad they are suffering, or they think it's the homeless person's fault, or that she chooses to sleep outside. Then they are not part of the solution. I will tell you that in 15 years, I have never met someone who chooses to sleep outside over an apartment. I have met people who have chosen to sleep outside over an overcrowded shelter. And for some people, the best decision they can make for their sobriety or their mental health is to stay away from the shelters. For others, it exacerbates their isolation and they become more expensive to us. It's easy to say, I'll never smoke crack, but none of us can say, I'll never have a mental health concern or crisis won't strike me. If we all threw our problems in a pile and looked at everyone else's, we'd grab ours back in a minute. Many Minnesotans make sure they're only exposed to suffering when it fits their schedule. Perhaps that's one reason people are bothered by the guy flying the cardboard sign. We hadn't planned on being interrupted by sickness or poverty today. So my hope is that once Minnesotans know the plight of those who have so little and may lose the little they've got, they can't ignore it. I want to tell you a secret. We're not sheltering mentally ill people, we're creating them. Now that you know this, you become part of the solution. Leviticus states that you don't put a stumbling block in front of the blind, and you don't insult the deaf. I'd like to add a third. You don't ask a suffering homeless man to fight off raccoons in the woods in a Chinese sleeping bag alone by himself. Thank you.